Once upon a time in a small village lived a little girl. Her mother loved her very much, and her grandmother loved her even more. This nice old woman made a red cloak for her, which suited the child so well that ever after she was called Little Red Riding Hood. One day her mother made some cakes and said to Little Red Riding Hood, "Go, my dear, and see how grandmother is. I've heard she's been very ill. Take her a cake and a little pot of butter." As she was walking through the woods, she met a large wolf. He was very hungry and wanted to eat her. But he dared not, for there were some woodchoppers nearby. So he asked her, "Where are you going, little girl?" Red Riding Hood didn't know it was dangerous to talk to strangers, and said, "I'm going to see my grandmother and take her a cake and a little pot of butter." "Does she live far off?" asked the wolf. "Not too far," said Little Red Riding Hood. "It is beyond that mill at the first house in the village." "Well," said the wolf, "I will go and see her too. I will go this way, and you should go that, and we will see who gets there the soonest." At this, the wolf began to run as fast as he could, taking the nearest path, and Little Red Riding Hood went by the farthest. She stopped often to chase a butterfly or pick up some flowers, so it took her a while to arrive. The wolf was soon at the house and knocked on the door. "Tap, tap. Who's there?" asked the grandmother. "It's Little Red Riding Hood," replied the wolf, changing his voice. The grandmother, who was ill in bed, called out, "Pull the string and the latch will go up." The wolf pulled the string and the latch went up. The door opened and he pounced on the woman and ate her up in no time. He shut the door and got into the grandmother's bed. A while later, Little Red Riding Hood knocked at the door. "Tap, tap. Who's there?" She heard the voice of the wolf, but thought her grandmother must have a bad cold, so she answered, "Little Red Riding Hood, I have brought you a cake and a pot of butter from Mother." The wolf softened his voice as much as he could and called out, "Pull the string and the latch will go up." Little Red Riding Hood pulled the string, the latch went up, and the door opened. The wolf was hiding under the bedclothes and called out in a muffled voice, "Put the cake and the pot of butter on the shelf and come to bed." Little Red Riding Hood looked with wonder at her grandmother, who had changed so much, and said, "Grandmother, what great arms you have." "The better to hug you, my dear," said the wolf. "Grandmother, what great ears you have." "The better to hear you, my dear." "Grandmother, what great eyes you have." "The better to see you, my dear." "Grandmother, what great teeth you have." "The better to eat you." Swiftly the wicked wolf sprang up and tried to eat Little Red Riding Hood. She ran across the room shouting, "Help, wolf!" as loudly as she could. A local woodchopper heard her cry and ran to the cottage. He confronted the wolf and forced him to spit out the grandmother. He knocked the wolf out and carried him far away so he couldn't feed in the village again. Little Red Riding Hood returned home safely with her grandmother and lived happily ever after.